am a true Belizean.
Tell them that we born there.
Belize my home, my native land.
Tell them that we born there.
I want you people to understand.
Tell them that we born there.
I am proud to be a Belizean.
Tell them that we born there.
You're born there, you're born there.
Tell them that we born there.
You're born there, you're born there. I am a true Belizean.
Tell them that we born there.
Belize my home, my native land.
Tell them that we born there.
I want you people to understand.
Tell them that we born there.
I am proud to be a Belizean.
Tell them that we born there.
Hi, good night, viewers in the diaspora and in Belize, at home, abroad. I would like to welcome my guest tonight, Mara Laura, on Navel String Connections. I'm kind of flying solo right now because Bilal, unfortunately, is stuck in traffic in the California freeway nightmare system. And our guest, who normally lives in California, is actually in Belize. I'm very jealous. Mario Lara. He is actually a public administration professionally. He works with the city of Sacramento.
That's right.
And he is assistant city. He's an assistant city manager for safety. And Mario, I'll let you introduce yourself. Please do give us your Navel String connection to Belize. We know you're very tied into Belize, without a doubt. So go ahead and introduce yourself, Mario.
Thank you, Ariane. Good night to your viewers and your listeners. Merry Christmas, Happy New Year's. You're right, I am joining you from Belize. I do an annual visit, normally around this time of year, so I'm in San Ignacio, Cayo right now, where my wife's family is from. My navel string, well, that's my heartstring connection, right? San Ignacio, Cayo. But my navel string connection, I born in Belize City. The hospital not exist anymore. It used to be, I think, McCleary Hospital. But I was born in Belize City, but raised most of my childhood was in Ladyville. Did attend Holy Redeemer Primary School and St. John's High School, Sixth Farm, all the way up to Sixth Farm. And I went to the U.S. when I was 18 to study. But from the time I left, I back and forth between the U.S. and Belize pretty much the entire time that I left, and even returned to Belize for a period of time before 15 years ago. I returned to Belize and I lived. I taught at Sacred Heart High School in San Ignacio.
What did you teach, Mario?
I taught social studies.
Okay.
Yeah, because my training is in economics and business administration, but my professional career has been in government, and I've always been interested in history and politics and social studies and that sort of thing. So.
And you also served in the U.S. military.
Correct. Yes, I served a tour of duty in the military, right around the time of Desert Storm, but I didn't get to go. In that. I was stationed in Germany at the time.
I wonder how many Belizeans went to Desert Storm. Because
I know of at least a few. I think quite a few actually served. And we know a lot of Belizeans serve in the U.S. military. There's obviously a strong relationship between the U.S. and Belize, and most of our Belizean diaspora is in the U.S. and a lot of them do serve in the military. When I went through basic training, lo and behold, I wasn't the only Belizean going through basic training at the time.
Wow.
And, there was another Belizean there with me. Well, he was from New York, I was from California. But I remember it because I graduated, and I didn't have any family members there, but they adopted me as a family member because they knew the Belize connection.
And Mario, in your time, for example, you work with the city of Sacramento. Mm-hmm. Could you tell us how big Sacramento City is?
Sure.
And also what you do in the city of Sacramento?
Yeah, so currently I'm the Assistant City Manager of Public Safety in the city of Sacramento. It has a little bit more than 500,000, more than 500,000 people. It's the 6th largest city and the capital city in the state of California. So to kind of put things in perspective, I mean, more than 500,000 people, capital city of the state of California. The state of California is, if California were a country, it would have the fourth largest GDP in the world. And the capital city of California is a well-established major city in the United States, long history, beautiful city. I've been there for 4 years. So I've worked, most of my public service career has been in California. I like to say that I've worked in every level of government in the United States because when I served in the military, that was federal government.
Right.
Right. And so my first, when I graduated from college, I tried corporate America for a little bit. You know, I did 3 years in a big five consulting firm in private sector. But I knew my calling was more towards public service. And my first job was in public administration was as a budget analyst with the Los Angeles Superior Court, largest trial court system in the world.
Wow.
And that was that I served during a time when the state was taking over the funding for the trial court system in California. So we went through that transition. So I worked at the federal level, at the state level, and after that, I worked for a little bit in the county of San Bernardino, which is what, you know, you talk about 5 million people maybe.
Wow.
Don't quote me on that, but it's millions of people in the county. So the way America is organized, right? You know how we have the districts here in Belize. Well, in you have the states, obviously the
Right.
United States, and each state is divided up into counties, and then each county have cities that are incorporated or unincorporated areas. So in California, you have several counties, and you have, you know, over 15 or probably 15 or 1700 incorporated cities within those counties. So I've worked at the federal, state, and now I'm working at the municipal level of government.
And Mario, what does the city of Sacramento budget look like?
So
What is their
yeah,
annual budget?
yeah, annual budget is between $1 and $2 billion annually. You
Okay.
know, and that's not looking at capital expenditures. So it's a very significant budget. And the departments that I'm assigned to are two of the several departments: the police department, the fire department, and the Department of Community Response, which combined is a very, very significant portion of their general fund budget, which is, you know, mostly property taxes and sales taxes. So
Right.
fairly large, complex organization that I'm very proud to be a part of.
And
I've had some very good opportunities.
And Mario, you know, I'm gonna dig right in. You have been a very vocal advocate. You've been on the show several times, the Creme Mandela show, who
Yeah.
is the sponsor for this show. And also, you have also kind of advocated social media about the importance of our connection to Belize. Why do you think it's important that we keep the connection with Belize?
Yeah, well, Belize is a small country to start with, right? And I always say that people are the greatest resource that any country has. And even though I left Belize, and there's a theory in economics that used to talk about. Sorry if you hear background noise, it's a lot of cohetes this time of year, and we were
Right.
having a little get together, so I just stepped away. Yeah, so I always say that people are the greatest resource that any country has. And even though I left Belize, I felt a moral duty or obligation to not forget where I came from. And so I purposely tried to stay connected and try to, any sort of free time or disposable income that I have, I try to make sure that I do some sort of project and give back to where I came from. And I hope that members of your audience and Belizeans who are living abroad would do the same, right? And I know a lot of Belizeans do. A lot of Belizeans who move abroad, they remain connected. You know, they help family and they do scholarships, and we always do the fundraising around, you know, especially in when a disaster strikes. And I think that's good, you know. But we need to take it to another level, right? Like if you look at the Jewish diaspora or the African diaspora or other countries and how they are able to, you know, really and truly work with each other to uplift the economy and create opportunities from in their home countries. I think that is wonderful. I also think that a lot of Belizeans abroad who are like me approaching retirement should really, really consider Belize as a retirement destination, because that is a way for them to use their retirement years, use their experience that they've gained abroad, and use their retirement years to give back to the community. And that is certainly something that I plan to do and have been trying to prepare and set myself up to be able to do.
What type
So,
of projects have you? I do know about one
yeah,
specifically where you did some level of farming, which you could explain to us.
yeah. Yeah,
And
I'm trying. Yeah, I'm trying to get something off the ground. A small farm, but I'm really inspired by some of the work that folks are doing here in Belize. Um, um, in trying to promote organic farming or sustainable farming and that sort of thing. And I'm trying to get something like that off the ground. And if there's anybody out there who's listening who have any ideas or thoughts or would like to partner, I'd like to advance that a little bit further. What I hope to accomplish is to create something where young folks um, will have an opportunity to come and learn and gain some skills in terms of how to run a farm and how to do things in a sustainable way. That's very, very, and just doing that kind of on the side, getting that started. And I worked with, a young person named Yunus Lucia. He has gone on to do other projects with the government of Belize, and I have another person that I'm working with now, trying to get that off the ground. And that's kind of a project that like I said, I'm trying to prepare myself for the next chapter of life, right? When I retire from what I'm doing in the United States, I do certainly plan to return to Belize and kind of get more involved in certain things like that. I don't want to come back to a retirement where I'm not doing something positive. So that's kind of a
what
project that I have back in mind. And I have a friend in LA who's a social worker, and hopefully we can combine our efforts because she has the same aspirations of returning to Belize and doing something positive. And so I told her about this idea that I had, where young people could learn how to farm and get wraparound services at the same time, to help them. If especially they used to call them at-risk youth, but I don't like that term. It's more, to me, a promise, right? That we have to mentor and we have to work with our young people and really set a good example for them and help them become productive and responsible adults. We can't just lament, about the crime or about other negative things that we see happening in our society and not do anything about it. So that's all kind of in my thoughts about stuff that I would like to involve myself in and try to get more involved in. And I would encourage other Belizeans abroad, right, to do similar types of things. I've been, my son, I try to make sure that he comes back and stays connected, knows where he's from, and participate in different programs and services. Last year, what we did was he participated with the marimba group out of Benke,
I
and we
remember,
did, we did a
yeah.
little fundraising for them as part of that effort. And we try to find little things like that, right, where it's a win-win. You're getting an experience, you're getting a benefit, right? My son had a very positive experience, but at the same time, you give back and you try to bring something positive to the
Mara, has
world.
anybody ever reached out to you to consult in structuring government in a way, for example, as you said, a lot of what cities does here or counties, or I live in a county that's we don't even have cities. It's run by a board of commissioners, but they get their funding from property taxes and sales taxes. And one of the things I've heard a lot about in Belize is our tax system. It's very poorly structured, where we're only taxing, we're kind of taxing the middle class who you could easily capture their income. But then our property taxes are so ridiculously low, and I keep
Yeah,
harping on this, that the expat community actually advertises it while they're selling multi-million-dollar properties online. So
right.
yes, the government gets the initial transfer tax, but then the yearly property taxes on some of these properties are $20 a year, and I don't know if we tie taxes. We don't do that direct taxing where your tax is going to roads, schools, specific things where people can justify taxes. So, have anyone ever reached out to you? You are a budget analyst, you're running an entire arm of government in the city of Sacramento that's just about the size of Belize in population, but I'm sure much smaller in landmass. Have anyone ever reached out to you for some guidance on how to structure government?
Well, the short answer is no. And to be fair, it's not like I have offered and tried to really connect with any official in government. Either I have commented on Facebook and I have tried to go through, trying to understand it. The very, I don't know what's the right word, but when we have our national budget speech and then the budget is published, I try to go through it and make some comments on it. But it's very lacking in details, and it's very difficult to understand and to get through. Even with I feel very comfortable and very well versed in terms of putting together a complex budget, but I find it difficult with what's available to the public to go through it and really understand it. But I have to say that over the years, I think, I have made some comments, and a few people here and there we've engaged in some kind of conversation. And, privately, I might have some, sidebar conversations with a few people who I know are connected, but nothing formal, And I think that's a great idea, and I think it would be nice, especially with the technology that's available, to have a commission where Belizeans abroad could participate on and contribute. And I was pleased when the new government came in, and I think there is a minister assigned or a ministry that's assigned to the diaspora, and I thought, okay, that's a movement in the right direction, and I think, it's good to have the different perspectives, right? I mean, we are viewing things one way because obviously we live abroad and we're looking at it from the 10,000-foot level, and we can share that perspective. But it would be good if we had more formal entities and structures to where we could exchange ideas, knowledge, and expertise and insights, right? Because I think we could learn a lot from the folks who are in the trenches working and trying to solve problems. And if we had a formal mechanism to where we could get together and exchange ideas, I think it would be very positive and benefit the country. I try to do it just in my spare time, like I said, with whatever public information is available, following the news headlines. And, so no, I haven't had any formal. I do hope that, and again, when I retire and I'm in Belize, I don't intend to just go fishing, and although I tend to do a lot of that, fishing and hiking and enjoying the natural beauty of the country, but I intend to try to give back too. And if they will, if the government of the day is willing, I would certainly be interested in using whatever experience, knowledge, and skills that I have to do stuff like that. And I would hope that there are retired Belizeans already here, that could serve in those capacities. And maybe they are. I don't know, but not me personally. I haven't been formally reached out to and asked to serve in any capacity. I mean, I have some contacts here and there that we like I said, informally exchange some ideas. But other than that, no. I think there should be a formal way to try to capture that, to make those linkages, right? And I would encourage that would occur. Again, we're getting kind of right into it, right? But I was kind of disappointed, and I know you share the same concern, right? That the People's Commission didn't have like a dedicated representative from the diaspora.
Right.
Clearly, we share in terms of our concerns about. I mean, we pay sales taxes because we buy a lot of stuff in Belize. We pay property taxes because we own property in Belize. We invest in Belize. We have a very, very deep connection and concern about what's happening in Belize. I have a future, and present because I have family, that's affected by everything that's happening in Belize.
Many provide employment. in Belize.
Right. We create employment opportunities. We do scholarships. We do projects. I mean, we do everything that a good citizen is asked to do. But all because we choose to live abroad, we're cut off. And that doesn't make any sense to me because that's hurting the country because that's a part of your natural resources that untapped. That's untapped, and I think that that I would have wanted to see, um, I would have liked to see that Malaysians abroad had better representation in the People's Constitution. But you know, I think we should still remain vigilant and still be vocal and still share our ideas and our concerns. And not let that stop us from doing that. And we have to be
Recent,
respectful. I listen to the other side too. I try to listen to the concerns that people have about, well, you left Belize, so you don't live here, so you don't have to live with that vote. And so
well,
why we should
you know,
allow you, you know?
and Mario always challenge that with the fact that as a country, most people, well, not most, let me rephrase that. There's a good number of people who don't even vote where they live. In fact,
True.
I was listening to a morning show where the person who lived in one of the villages, it was either Ladyville or Boom or one of the small areas around there, complaining about some issue happening in his village. And somebody said, "Well, why don't you reach out to the chairman of his village?" And he said, "Well, he doesn't pay me any mind. He completely ignores me." But then again, I vote in Belize City. So to me, it's like it's the lack of connection
Yeah,
with voting where you live and then holding the person accountable to where you live because you're voting to make sure your constituency actually they're doing what they are supposed to do. And
yeah.
recently, actually, maybe 3 weeks ago, a politician told me, I won't call his name, just put him on blast, but he
Mm.
told me the diaspora isn't important. It was more than 3 weeks ago. It's just before the hurricane hit. And then the hurricane hit, and then the diaspora, just through the same ambassador, they calculated they donated over $500,000 worth of goods to Belize. So my question is to you, um, where do we go from here? Because we do have a ambassador of diaspora affairs that's very much involved. She is very, hands-on. But what do we want to see? Because, we're not a monolithic group.
Yeah.
There's some people that are just happy to give a scholarship or two. There's some people that do want to retire back home. And so the question is, how do we move from idea to reality? You
Well,
know,
and I have to commend you for what you're doing right here, right? Because this dialogue that we're having and making it public and having the conversation so that we can build relationships and connections and people can understand that um, living overseas is not it's not a crime, it's not treason, it's not betraying your country. It's taking care of your family the best way that you know how, but still caring about where you came from, right? There was no rejection of where we came from. I love Belize. I'm proud of Belize. I serve as an ambassador to Belize, and I don't collect anything from BTB or government of Belize. And I can tell you that just based on all the networking that I have in the U.S. and every time that I talk, everybody knows where I'm from, and I'm always talking positively about Belize when I'm overseas. Is that, and I hope that more and more of this kind of conversations will happen and people will eventually understand and change their minds um, about the role that Belizeans living in the diaspora can play, ought to play, or have a right to, and eventually over time that it will change. Yes, would I like to see a more organized effort with in the diaspora to push that front? I would, but I understand that life in these United States. I know I'm on vacation now, but when I'm in the United States area, I mean, it's I
Rat
work
race.
12-hour days. I work
Yeah.
13-hour days, and then I get home exhausted. And life is at such a pace, that it's very difficult. And I hope that your listeners and Malaysians back home can really appreciate that, to stay connected to where you're from, to be organized. I know you are involved in different, Belize groups and stuff like that. I mean, I really want your audience and listeners, and especially those back home, to understand that that takes a tremendous amount of effort and time and commitment, to even be involved in a organization that just does simple fundraising, right? Even that takes a significant amount of commitment. When I drive to LA to send shipment, to send stuff to Belize, either for family or friends or whatever, to help a cause out or do, that's an 8-hour drive. Like, you're giving up an
Oh,
entire
wow.
weekend. Just a simple example as that, right? Or when you're trying to schedule calendars so that people could get together to organize like a dance or a function, and then just to organize things like that, it takes a lot of tremendous amount of effort. So I give my hats off to people like you, people like Bilal and others who are really, really helping to organize the Malaysians abroad, to kind of come together. When I was in LA, I felt like I had more of a base, right, that we could do stuff like that. Now I'm in Northern California, and I've only been there 3 years. I've met a few Belizeans in Northern California. I don't have as big of a base, to reach out to, or to work with. But I think more of those efforts, right? We really need to continue and push for this conversation and open up, create those networks, and work with each other, just to stay connected. It takes effort. Like any relationship, right? It takes effort, to stay connected, to communicate, keep the lines of communication open, and to push it further. So
When I look at city like Sacramento, which you would probably consider more of an upper middle class community,
mhm,
that you have 500,000 people, and then compare it to Belize, 400,000 people,
right,
but the level of interest in Belize is getting to a very extremely high point, to the point where I think that if Belize doesn't seriously step back, and I mean seriously step back, do a serious analysis and do some, um, 10, 15, 25 year planning, that deals with where do we want to go as a country, who do we want to include, what does Belize look like 25 years from today. If we don't do that step back and we just continue moving on our daily basis, Belize is a jewel. It truly is a jewel.
yeah,
You have a rich sea that's sitting in front there. You have waterways just, crisscrossing through the country. You have these aquifers, that are practically untouched. You have this forest and this wealth of land. And it seems that we as Belizeans, and I know, I always get deeper with it because I think part of it is the fact that the British kind of did us a disservice. And the reason I say that is that they kind of handed independence to us. Yes, there was a structure in place, but in a way, the legal system has not supported a viable country. And when I say legal system, it's not only the law, as in the criminal law, but I'm talking about structuring our public service, structuring our police, structuring accountability. There's a lot of things that even, with land is my expertise. even with land, like Belize was set up to be an absentee colony where a lot of people who own land lived abroad.
Yeah.
It's interesting that we have this contentious relationship with the diaspora sometimes, but the major landowners never lived in Belize. It was our land laws are structured in a way that it is anti-development because
Yeah.
people hold on to land for generations and there's no tax system in place, there's no policy in place that forces them to either sell the land or develop the land.
Yeah.
And there's all this other stuff that's wrapped in it. And I
I
am saying
definitely,
this, I'm
yeah,
saying this, Mario, because we have the second coming of people who are far more sophisticated. And I'm not being insulting, I'm just saying they come from far more sophisticated business structure
more
system.
exposure. Yeah.
And when they get in there, they're just going to take over. It's inevitable because we are not sitting back, we're not thinking, man, how can I develop this country?
Yeah. I definitely agree with you in terms of wanting to see 20, 25 year development plans. Like each major town or city in Belize should have that, should
Yeah.
have like a 20 to 25-year plan. And the national government can encourage it, right? Because could make funding available to those towns and villages who go through the public consultation process, and it should be required by law to
Yeah.
have that 20 25-year plan, because then um, you have a more organized way of pursuing your development rather than a haphazard kind of way. And I suppose that there's a lot of plans that are on the books or on the shelves, and we pick and choose from some of those. But I wish that those were more readily visible, available, and we could see that's what's being followed. I yes, on my experience, both at the county and city level in California, I know that they do have to adopt those kinds of long range plans. You have an entire department that is set up to do that. And any development that comes within a city or within a jurisdiction has to align with that 20 to 25-year plan and the zones, the various zones that you have. Like you can't come and build a nightclub in the middle of
Right.
a residential zone. So you have all of those things are pre-planned and figured out. And then you have a planning commission that developers have to go in front of to view the plan. I know you have the Department of Environment and all of that in Belize that does some of that work, but it always feels like it's missing something, right? And yeah, I definitely would want to see more of that. But we have to also recognize that Belize is still a developing country, right? It's only what a few years. I mean, compared to the U.S. Right? It's only a few
Mara,
years old. But I get that. I
I
get
would say
that.
that's our cop out.
it's
I would
it's
say
not,
it's
it's
our
not
cop
only a
out.
cop out. We can actually we're an advantage because we don't have to start from scratch and figure it all out, because a lot of this stuff has already been figured out and
Right,
we could learn
right.
from others. So we could leapfrog and use best practices from around the globe to establish our development plans.
Maria
Um,
I was studying Singapore. Singapore got its self-government around the same time Belize got its self-government. Plus, they had a very powerful country, China, who was claiming them,
mhm.
even more powerful than our Guatemala. And the way Singapore developed, and today they are a first world country. So think about Belize from self-government to 2022. Singapore from self-government to 2022. The difference is clear. The difference was about vision. One of the first vision the president then of Singapore had was that every citizen should own a house, a home. Not because he believed that if by owning a home, that citizen will become, um, what's the word? He will become compelled almost to defend that home. what happened, and I'm a member of the diaspora, but I can recognize it. What has happened in Belize is that we're seeing the brain drain just continuing. And now it's not only the US, it's Taiwan and Canada has actually recently issued a policy that they want to attract 2 million people into
Mhm.
Canada, and they've already started in Belize advertising position because these countries are what you consider aging countries. They don't have enough young people to keep working and paying taxes so that the old people can retire. So they need young people who can work and pay taxes. See, and this is these countries that are developing with that in mind.
Yeah.
I know 20, 30 years from now, we'll have an aging population. Who's going to be there to pay the taxes? Their birth rate is down. And then you have young countries like Belize, who have a very high youth population
Hmm.
that is not creating opportunities for the average person. Of course, there are opportunities, but there's a lot of gaps that are happening.
Yeah.
And I only brought Singapore as a comparison because it has to be a vision, and then the vision has to become a plan, and then
Right.
it has to be a serious work towards where we heading. And to me, that's my dedication.
Yeah.
Both my parents were civil servants, so I understand from a very deep level the importance of structuring our system so that people can like we should want somebody to come from the deepest depth of poverty and rise to the highest level. I
Mhm.
mean, that's the American dream, right? That's basically the American dream, that if you work hard enough, you can reach any level you want, and we want that
I think
for
that's the
Belize.
human dream.
It
That's
is.
the dream
It,
of
it
humans,
truly
right? I mean,
is.
we're
It
born into
truly
this
is.
world, and we want, the natural instinct is survival, obviously, but more so than that, we want to thrive, and we want, and I think that's just the natural human dream, is to be able to progress and develop, and access, more comforts, if you will, or leisure, or whatever it is, but be better off than you were. So
Right.
I think that is definitely something that we should tap into. Um, I want to say that, again, the reason why Belize should really and truly tap into the diaspora with the folks who are abroad. The current prime minister took a lot of heat early in his administration when he said, something about no talent, right? I think I understand what he meant. Belize is a very small country, so the talent pool is small. And if half of that talent pool moves to go live overseas, that makes it even more challenging, right? You talked about the brain drain, and there is that, right? Because if you think about the people who would move to go live overseas, generally those are enterprising people who are pushing, right? Who are pushing for something more, right? But they don't leave and necessarily forget where they came from. Like me, I think I'm a perfect example, right? I mean, I left because when I graduated from sixth farm, at the time when I graduated from sixth farm, that's, I mean, the highest I could go.
Right.
I never have a whole lot of opportunity for much. So I didn't leave because I didn't like Belize, or I didn't love Belize. I was just, following my natural curiosity, instincts, desires, to further my knowledge and my advancement, and life happens. But I'm still committed. There's no reason not to tap into your entire, talent pool, including Belizeans who live abroad, right? So
Well,
somehow we have to figure out better ways to connect that, and not stop this nonsense, right? That roots Belizean versus diaspora Belizean versus, I mean, we just have to stop that, and yes, the folks that are here in the trenches working to find solutions, wonderful. They have a wonderful perspective. We need to be able to embrace that, appreciate that, and then work toward that. So Belize's smallness is a challenge. We have a limited, um, population base to draw from, and it's already made more limited by folks who leave and then But fortunately, we live in the day and age where the technology exists to where maybe we can recapture some of that, right? And capitalize on that. Get that expertise, get that investment back into the country. And I think that is happening. That is starting to happening, and I'm seeing more of that. The other
So
challenge.
Mario, we actually have to go to break.
Okay.
When we come back from break, we're going to wrap up, and we're going to bring Beresford Cod next,
Sure.
Junior. So just give us 15 more minutes of your time.
Okay.
Then you could get back to your party and tell us. All righty.
All right.
I am proud to be a Belizean.
Tell them that we bonding.
Your bande, your bande.
Tell them that we bonding.
Your bande, your bande.
Tell them that we bonding.
I've always enjoyed the different flavors of my country. Every nook and cranny has its own unique taste.
Our history, rich with culture. We've come so far since our independence. Our flag, rivers, mountains, our people, diverse and strong.
Looking back, I am proud and honored. We must continue to preserve and conserve our culture and country for the next generation.
This is our Belize. Respect it, cherish it, love it.
It's the Creme New Year's Day Cycling Classic 2023 edition. From the border to the boulevard, the Hondo to the Mahogany, Belize top cyclists gear up to start the cycling calendar in fine style, aiming to claim top prize in the second most prestigious cycling event of the new year. Brandon Catus goes in as the 2022 defending champion. Juniors and females take off from Orange Walk Town at 9:30 and 9:35 a.m. respectively. Elite riders leave the Corozal border at 9 a.m. sharp. Get it live on Creme Radio and Creme TV, the Creme Television Facebook page, and the Creme Radio Belize app. Who will have the strength to finish? Who will claim the fabulous station prizes along the way? And who will cross the finish line first and earn bragging rights as the 2023 Creme New Year's Day Cycling Classic champion? It's the Creme New Year's Day Cycling Classic, Sunday, January 1st, starting at 9 a.m.
This is a matter for our families, our children, our friends, and we must be better people. And so we must demonstrate that we will not tolerate anything related to any type of hate crimes. And if it happens, that we provide those persons with legal recourse to address those kinds of things.
Hi, my name is Keenan Hyde, and I am happy to tell you that Backstage Pass Belize will be premiering on Creme Television. Our first guest of honor is none other than Echo Milton, famed producer and artist.
Sing it like you got more pain in you.
He'll be telling us what led to the downfall of TNS.
You no song like a bedrin, bro. You song like a jealous brother. You no song like Judas right now. You song like a man who nail me for a cross.
The real story behind the 501-822 beef.
This not no comedy. It's a war. Everybody know I fat. I big. I got 5 girls in front of me. I think the whole of Belize know that.
And we'll be testing his knowledge on his fellow Belizean producers that paved the way before him.
Well, I know Mr. Dale Davis have a lot to do with broke down music in a whole. The creation of broke down music with same lad Ray-Ban and Leela Vernon.
So tune in to Creme Television and make sure to follow all the social media platforms.
I'm a true born Belizean.
Tell them that we bonding.
Belize my home, my native land.
Tell them that we bonding.
I want you people to understand.
Tell them that we bonding.
I am proud to be a Belizean.
Tell them that we bonding.
Your bande, your bande.
Tell them that we bonding.
Your bande. and Belize.
Tell them that we born there.
Belize my home, my native land.
Tell them that we born there.
I want you people to understand.
Tell them that we born there.
I am proud to be a Belizean.
Tell them that we born there.
You're born there, you're born there.
Tell them that we born there.
You're born there, you're born there. I am a true born Belizean.
Tell them that we born there.
Belize my home, my native land.
Tell them that we born there.
I want you people to understand.
Tell them that we born there.
I am proud to be a Belizean.
Tell them that we born there.
You're born there, you're born there.
Tell them that we born there.
You're born there, you're born there. I am a true born Belizean.
Tell them that we born there.
Belize my home, my native land.
Tell them that.
Hi, welcome back to Navel String Connections, and Bilal is with us finally. Yay!
Hey, good to be back. I better late than never, right, Aria?
Yes, yes,
and
very
it's
true.
good to be back to catch the last segment of the show. I apologize for my late arrival, but here we are. Let's say hi to my good friend Mario Lara.
Good to see you, Bilal.
Yes, man. So you're in the jewel, my brother.
You know me. I try to come back every year, at least once a year, and I'm enjoying San Ignacio Cayo right now. The weather is nice. I don't know where you are, like 30 degrees or whatever, but over here it's like 70 degrees.
Yeah, that's your hometown, bro. Yeah.
So thank you, Mario. Do you have any last words or advice you'd like to give our listeners?
Thanks for the opportunity, Ari and Bilal. I think what you guys are doing is extremely important, opening up the lines of communication between Belizeans at home and abroad. I encourage you to continue doing that. I know it's a lot of, like I said, we work some long hours and you get stuck in traffic in LA, Bilal. Working in the United States, living abroad is no cakewalk. It's tough, and we sacrifice that, but we love Belize and we love where we came from. And so I think this open lines of communication is very important. The message I want to leave with your listeners and your viewers, right, to those who live overseas, who live abroad, find ways to invest in Belize. I know a lot of Belizeans abroad do it. They do scholarships, they do fundraising drives, they have properties in Belize. If you own a property in Belize and you haven't developed it and you've been thinking about developing it, there's no better time than now to try to do that, because jobs are needed. Your investment, rather than putting away that money in the stock market or 401k, pull that out and do your invest. I just want to encourage Belizeans who live overseas to invest in Belize. They have the opportunity to do it. And I think it's a good investment. Belize, for all its challenges and all its difficulties, yes, I think we all share the concern about corruption and crime. Those are the two challenges that we see with Belize, right? But I think for those people abroad, there's anywhere that you go, there are challenges. No place is perfect. But Belize is a beautiful country, beautiful people. This is where we're from. And I just can't stress enough that every Belizean abroad should find a way. Use your talents, use your gifts, use your resources, and invest back home. To those Belizeans at home, what I would say is that I understand that maybe sometimes, there's this little, Uno left, right? So why we should have bother with Uno, and why we should have listened to Uno, and why we should have even care about what Uno got to say. I would encourage Belizeans abroad is not to cut us off, right? Not to be open, to be welcoming, and a lot are because my family, my friends, when I come home, welcome, it's a welcome party, and like right now, I'm working together with a family, and I am embraced, and I feel that. But there is that vocal minority, I think, that sometimes tries to gin up the division, and I say we don't need that. We need to squash whatever little divisions there may be, and really and truly embrace one another. And again, I try to be respectful, and I try to listen to the perspective of those who are in the trenches, and because it's difficult. Sometimes I criticize the government, yes, because yeah, those are the ones who raise their hand and put themselves in that position and should be criticized and should be held accountable. But it ain't easy because I work in government myself and I know it ain't easy. Getting policy changes and getting things accomplished and getting things done takes a lot of work. So anyway, that's the kind of the message out I want to left to both Belizeans abroad and at home, right? Is that we all love this little jewel, and I think we are. We're, I don't want to. I'm an optimist. I feel good about the direction in the way things are headed, but I feel like we could do a lot more to advance the project of Belize and to really let Belize be a shining example on the map. That we are the ones that people are looking to as to how things should be done because we have the resources.
All right, I wanted to ask you before you go, and maybe my first question before you leave. Presently, you're down on the ground there, and you talk about this whole thing of making that difference. And when we are always on the ground in Belize, those of us who live abroad and live in the diaspora, what are you presently working on right now? Because I know you are a very busy man. You are always doing something constructive.
I talked briefly about it with Arya. I started a small farm project where I'm hoping will turn into like a demonstration farm where young people will be able to come in and pick up some skills about organic farming and farming. It's a small property that I have in Valley of Peace, and we're working on trying to establish that. That's a long project that we're working on. Other than that, I just stay involved. I'm building. I'm building I'm doing some construction project in Belize, and so I try. Like I said, I try to invest back. Win-win, because I feel like it's a Belize is on a development path. I think rather than build up my 401k, I prefer to take every extra lead change that I have and bring it back home and try to do a project with it and try to do something with it. They're small. It's a small way of doing it, but you multiply that by the thousands of Belizeans that are living abroad and have every Belizean abroad doing some sort of little project in Belize, and you will see that, it will make a big difference. So yeah, those are the two little projects that I'm working on, a construction project here in San Ignacio, and then the farming project. And I always try to support other causes that I see that's positive, and again, promoting transparency. I'm sending a bunch of emails. I'm looking at the People's Constitution, and I'm monitoring that closely. And I'm not saying anything publicly yet because you have to give it a chance, right? I did mention to Harriet that I'm concerned that there wasn't a representation or a specific representation, but then I get it. You have to draw the line somewhere, and okay, but I know that they will be doing some outreach efforts in the diaspora, and okay, let's see how that goes. But I did ask for some information about that, and I would like to see a website and more transparency in terms of what their work plan is and how that's going to unfold, rather than the day before the meeting that happened at LA, I find out about the meeting and I can't go because I didn't see that. I don't want that happen.
Right.
It has happened where there's outreach efforts and you only find out about it the day before.
Arya, we have to wrap up with you. I'm so happy that you came on the show. Beresford is actually in a group that's on the Constitutional Committee.
Okay.
So please stay tuned in and connect with Beresford because he will represent the youth arm. His group have the youth arm in the Constitutional Committee, and maybe you could collaborate later. You have a farm that you want young people to become involved in. So let's keep this dialogue going. And I do want to introduce Beresford. Beresford Cod Jr., thanks Mario. Beresford Cod Jr. is from Belize City, Beresford, but he lived at Belmopan. So we have adopted you in Belmopan. He's a dynamic young person. He won the Chevening, how do you pronounce it? Chevening scholarship. Chevening scholarship that took him to the UK to study. And he also was a member of the Young Professionals for the World Trade Organization. He actually, and you would like this, Bilal, he has a group. I don't know if you notice every so often, You're seeing young athletes being signed to universities abroad. Beresford has a group that helps to connect student athletes with scholarship opportunities abroad. And so far, his group has sent scores of young people to study abroad, full scholarships,
Very good.
giving them an opportunity to go study. And also, like I said, he belongs to a group that, and I think he's one of the founding members, where they lobby the government like we did with the diaspora. But I guess the youth is at home, so they can't mess with that vote. So they allowed them a space on the constitutional committee. And so the reason I invited Beresford because he lived abroad and he was engaged with different Belizeans. He lived in Europe. And so, Beresford, please introduce yourself. He actually lives in Belize now, and he's back from his 1 year internship with the World Trade Organization.
Yeah, so good night, everybody. Good night, Arya. Good night, Bilal. Thanks a lot. Good night to listeners. As Arya said, my name is Beresford Cod. I'm 31 years old from Belize City. Grew up there my entire life. Went to university in Barbados at the age of 18. Started working for the government at 22, moving on to 23, and I've been with the government, that's the Ministry of Foreign Trade, for 8.5 years. That's the professional side. Well, on the outside of work, I wear, I think, too many hats some days. I'm a board member for the YMCA at the moment, after being a volunteer for about 6 years. Started BK Sports Group with my brother, and we've sent about, I think we're at about 15 athletes now over the last 4 years to the US and Canada. We just got about 3 more athletes signed over the last month. So even while I was away, we stay connected virtually, just like what we're doing through this forum, and we're able to help out and assist in the way so we know how. One of our athletes, Mia Sylvester, she's headed to the University of Idaho in January. It's a very promising young.
What a time to go to Idaho, January.
What a time! But they came calling with a full scholarship offer, and it's a chance to get a good education as well as to be in a highly competitive system as they're a Division I program in the Big Sky Conference. So that type of work and experience and competition, she wouldn't have been getting in Belize or even competing in Central America. She's been dominating her age groups in Central America for the last 2 or 3 years. So and we've also started RILAB, that's the Young Leaders Alliance of Belize, because what I've been monitoring this youth development situation in Belize for, I would say, the better part of the last 5 years. I've never been all the way connected in it, simply because my work with government has placed me into different spaces. So like I was on the government's Revenue Enhancement Committee at 24, going on 25, I would say. So a lot of my peers were occupied with quote unquote youth work in Belize. I was busy at the table negotiating with the unions how we would improve, the efficiency in revenue collection. So that's where my work has been. So when I got into the youth space, I started to observe that, youth in Belize it wasn't really a constituent group. The number gets thrown out, 70% of the country is under 34 and so on and so forth. But there's never really an organized vehicle in which their concerns or their interests can be channeled. And that was the impetus for us creating YLAB this year. It's been an interesting start, kind of learning on the fly how to deal with different personalities. Because just like Mario had mentioned just now, youth definitely are not monolithic. There's different interests for young people from rural communities, from urban areas. But some of the the common threads that holds everybody together is a desire or an interest to see better for Belize, see better for themselves and their families, to live, meaningful lives, to live lives of dignity. And that ties into this whole discussion you guys were having earlier about things like housing, things like access to education, healthcare. And strangely, these are youth-only issues. These are issues facing a large portion of our middle-aged, even our senior population in Belize. And it's something that we, I think, want to lend our voice and our energies to see how we can help. One of the first things we started working closely with this year was the whole process when the marijuana legislation was being passed through the National Assembly. We had our concerns with it, with the fact that it wasn't as an open system as we would have liked it to be. Of course, the AML CFT concerns came up because we have quite a bit of professional capacity in our group as well. We have from high school kids all the way through to young people with PhDs. So the range of input is different. We have some of our conversations get lively in-house where we have people in the oil industry and environmentalists go back and forth about what's the right path for us to choose in terms of how Belize develops. So I'm very encouraged. Like, I know for me, 2022 was just to set the table, to get a structure. We're registered now as a not-for-profit, on the way to NGO status. So 2023 is where we really take off. We will have our first AGM in the coming month. Get our young people in place and have them at the forefront. I'm one of the older youth in the group now. According to Belize, I'm not even a youth anymore. We stretched it out before the time. So I'm an old youth, as they like to say.
Let me ask you before, not to cut you short, not to cut you, but we have seen a lot of this initiative for years, and part of one government to the other, where the youth has taken on the leadership role like you have. Highly educated young people like yourself who have come out of university, maybe UWI, American universities or the UK, and have come home, have worked in your capacity in engineering, but have also contributed in the area of sports or in some kind of extracurricular activity in terms of volunteerism, in terms of what you were doing. And we see Boston, I have interviewed a couple of people on my other show that were looking at how do you take the student athlete. Fuller Lightburn is one of those people who have done tremendously well, taking the young Belizean potential to get scholarships abroad. But we are trying to see how Belize can get back to that championship brand. Being the student athlete is just not enough, because in the 70s you had athletes that were not even student athletes, and they are legends today in terms of basketball, football, you name it, boxing, that make the youth today in terms of sports look very bad.
I agree.
To really put it down today, but what is the result that you are trying to gain from this? Because we have seen that before, where organizations or bodies or individuals like yourself take initiatives to get Belizeans abroad to go to study on sports scholarships. They have taken up some kind of academic practice in terms of returning home and stuff like that. But we are not seeing those student athletes coming back and really bringing back that championship brand that Belize once was. Is this a challenge for you in terms of what you are doing, in terms of what is the result after they come back and they become that student and they get that scholarship and they come back, in terms of maybe played a sport, basketball, soccer, football, or whatever, along with their particular academic training, being an engineer or whatever. But we see going back into the government service and the private sector, but we don't see the championships athletic brand coming back. Do you see that as a challenge in terms of what you're doing?
Well, for me, what I think is the biggest challenge is the base of what of our sporting infrastructure is weak to non-existent. So you have guys playing like in football, they call it golitos. That's the extent of the training that they get, right? Being in Switzerland for a year and just using that as my reference point to compare, um, you have kids in camps from 5 years old, full-time training. They're practicing with coaches, and there's organization, there's structure. So it's no surprise that Switzerland, being a small European country of only 7 million people, have been in the World Cup. They knocked out Italy. They were the country that knocked out Italy, and that allowed them to get to the World Cup this year. And Italy is a much bigger, better resource country than they are. But they have instituted development programs all the way through up until the point where kids get to college. What we are trying to do is we got into this system because we wanted to create a sports fever. As one of my old mentors, Mr. Mark Usher, would say, right?
I know I interviewed Mark Usher on my Belize Legend show, and him specifically I was talking about, but because of a sudden he disappeared. It's like, Mark, where's that good work that you were doing? And I interviewed you on, and you were talking about these great things that you were doing, and then you just disappeared into the horizon.
It's tough because when you look around, the level of investment to even run basic camps aren't there. People in the private sector prefer spending money on competitions because it gets a bit more exposure immediately, right? So you push and you push, you meet years and years of administrators who just don't care or don't understand or who don't even bother altogether. They just need to check certain boxes for sports and youth just to say that, we have a ministry or we have a sports council, but you ask what are the deliverables, where are they, as I was talking about earlier about planning and the vision of what you want to see, like there's no real direction over the years in terms of bringing up that talent. Because if we look across in our Caribbean sisters, little Grenada had
Grenada. Absolutely.
Grenada had 3 Olympics, right? Bahamas, dozens. Barbados has.
Don't talk about Jamaica.
So it's like it's some key
center of excellence in Jamaica. Why can't Belize, Beresford Court have a center of excellence that have produced the Usain Bolts and Elaine Thompsons?
Speaking to that, that's something that our group
it's coming, but we are waiting.
One of the things I actually like is that you're doing it from an NGO perspective, and that creates a level of advocacy. But one of the things I would encourage your group to look at is writing policy in sense of, in the United States, for example, you mentioned private sector normally want to sponsor big events where they're stuff. But in the US, how they do it, they actually get tax benefits from helping to develop sports. And this is why when I talk about development, it has to be so comprehensive because our tax system can actually lead us to a developed country. And that's why I don't buy the cop-out about us being developing or third world. I just think it's poor planning. And so as a advocate, I would encourage you to talk to people like Mario, who runs a city government and deals with creating budgets and tax policies and stuff, where you as an NGO can know, because a lot of times, like one of my friends explained, sometimes it's not a lack of interest, sometimes it's a lack of knowledge. And they won't admit that they don't know how to do it. What they'll do is, I don't understand it, therefore it's not going to be important for me. And why I actually am excited about this, because I played sports in Belize for the female level. And the other thing that if you study South Africa, one of the big things that soccer did was help with the aftermath of apartheid. in bringing the country together as a one country. So, Beresford, with that in mind, like what are some of your vision? What is your vision for sports, and do you utilize the diaspora to help you create this vision?
Well, thanks a lot. One of the big vision for us, and the reason why we've advocated so heavily and worked, and we haven't only advocated, we've actually worked as well. I've given hours, I've taken out of my own pocket to help certain kids who are underprivileged to apply for the visa. I mean, just today we had a kid here from PG who got a full scholarship to go to Kentucky.
Oh,
So
nice.
he's a 17-year-old from PG's family is he's not from a well-off family. He's hardworking.
Belizean student groups you need to connect with. Sorry, go ahead.
Hardworking Belizean family. You know, father is a pastor and a farmer, but you know, we get a hold of these things and we know that the turnaround time now. So we've been working for 4 years, so we know how the system works. We've done it countless times, so you know the deadlines that you have to work with. So you develop a certain level of expertise that makes you realize, wait, we've sent off basically the 12 or 13 best players in the Belize national volleyball team program. That's male and female, right? And that, Bilal, is one of the direct sweets that we've taken from the initiatives that we've done so far, that the girls who have gone away have come back and performed admirably. We were close, we got the silver in Belize, but they've built on the progress that Lupita Kwan's camp has done.
That's the results I'm talking about, the results. Yes.
Yes, in terms of Lupita Kwan built up the foundation up to a level where they're competitive. Now the girls reach a certain point that you have to go out and play bigger, better competition on a more consistent basis. So when you see these girls now, even just looking at their physique, you see a difference when you're in a full-time system. So when they come back and they play for the national team over the summer, in the off season, when they're out of season in the US, they're able to contribute at a much higher level because the level of competency has been raised. But then also,
what about the national pride? I mean, you see
that too.
Belize went off when those girls were dominating.
I was there in 2018 when the senior women's team got the silver, and I had goosebumps the entire night.
So did I.
I looked around to my left, I looked to my right, I saw an Asian family, I saw a mestizo family, I saw a Garifuna family right in the same circle. Everybody was celebrating. I mean, even on the court, some of the girls were from different ethnic groups, so it was just everybody flying under the Belizean flag. So why we do what we do is we want to use sports as a means of bringing the country together, because we need more notoriety for positive role models, I think. Because our news gives too much.
And you also need that national fan base.
Well, that too.
You can't have these athletes going out there and you don't have the nation. In the 70s with the softballers who won the gold medals, it was the nation. When you go and see Consuelo Dugal pitching against Jamaica in the cast games, it's like 7,000, 8,000 people there watching that. And the nation was behind them. And I think that's what we need today. You don't see a fervent national sports pride that comes out to these games. I watch the softball games as big as they are, but that civic should have been full to capacity.
Well, have you opened a newspaper, a Belizean newspaper lately, to see what the sports pages look like?
Very much so.
Oh, with that in mind, we have to take a break.
Very much. You're saying that it's not that well supported.
Bilal and Beresford, we're going to take a break. We're going to come back. We have 10 minutes after that, and we're going to wrap up.
When we come back. See you when we come back.
Hi, my name is Keenan Hyde, and I am happy to tell you that Backstage Pass Belize will be premiering on Crim Television. Our first guest of honor is none other than Echo Milton, famed producer and artist.
Sing it like you got more pain in you.
He'll be telling us what led to the downfall of TNS.
You no song like a bedroom, bro. You song like a jealous brother. You no song like Judas right now. You song like a man where nail me for a cross.
The real story behind the 501-822 beef.
It's not a comedy. It's a war. Everybody know I fat. I big. I got my 5 girl in front of me. I think the whole of Belize know that.
And we'll be testing his knowledge on his fellow Belizean producers that paved the way before him.
Well, I know Mr. Dale Davis have a lot to do with broke down music in a whole. The creation of broke down music with same Lord Rayburn and Leela Vernon.
So tune in to Creme Television and make sure to follow all our social media platforms. Hi, my name is
I am proud to be a Belizean.
I've always enjoyed the different flavors of my country. Every nook and cranny has its own unique taste.
Our history, rich with culture. We've come so far since our independence. Our flag, rivers, mountains, our people, diverse and strong.
Looking back, I am proud and honored. We must continue to preserve and conserve our culture and country for the next generation.
This is our Belize. Respect it, cherish it, love it.
This is a matter for our families, our children, our friends, and we must be better people. And so we must demonstrate that we will not tolerate anything related to any type of hate crimes. And if it happens, that we provide those persons with legal recourse to address those kinds of things.
It's the Creme New Year's Day Cycling Classic 2023 edition. From the border to the boulevard, the Hondo to the Mahogany, Belize top cyclists gear up to start the cycling calendar in fine style, aiming to claim top prize in the second most prestigious cycling event of the new year. Brandon Catus goes in as the 2022 defending champion. Juniors and females take off from Orange Walk Town at 9:30 and 9:35 a.m. respectively. Elite riders leave the Corozal border at 9 a.m. sharp. Get it live on Creme Radio and Creme TV, the Creme Television Facebook page, and the Creme Radio Belize app. Who will have the strength to finish? Who will claim the fabulous station prizes along the way? And who will cross the finish line first and earn bragging rights as the 2023 Creme New Year's Day Cycling Classic champion? It's the Creme New Year's Day Cycling Classic, Sunday, January 1st, starting at 9 a.m.
I am a true born Belizean. Belize my home, my native land. I want you people to understand. I am proud to be a Belizean. Your bande, your bande. Your bande, your bande. I am a true born Belizean. Belize my home, my native land. I want you people to understand. I am proud to be a Belizean. Your bande, your bande.
This is Navel Swing Connections. I'm Bilal Morris, and we are back with myself and my co-host, Aria Lightfoot, and we are in our, what I read, this is the 10th,
segment with
10th episode of Navel Swing Connection, and the last for this year, 2022.
Yes.
We're talking with these constructive Belizean from the Constructive Belizean Revolution Youth Connection. very sport god, very bright, intelligent brother who I love how he brings these two disciplines together, academics and sports, in creation of the student athlete, the Belizean student athlete, and finding opportunities for them abroad to study and to develop their sporting discipline. My brother, I wanted to ask you right off in this last few minutes of the show, what are all the different sporting disciplines that you are trying to develop the Belizean student athlete in? I mean, you have sent your work on having Belizeans from very maybe marginalized Belizean parts of the society to get opportunities to study abroad that was potentially good athletes, could be potentially good athletes, championship brand. What are the different scholarships and what were the different sporting disciplines that you were able to have the opportunity in getting Belizean students to go study abroad?
Thanks for the question. So far, we've done mostly volleyball, but we've gotten into track and field, and we've done some work with football as well. I try to partner with guys who have experience and know the ins and outs. So with track and field, who was instrumental in giving me the proper guidance to work with the young lady Mia from Belize, was Mr. Colin Turton. I know he's a very popular gentleman in the diaspora.
And you probably know my brother Ernest Morris, who is also a very good coach. Always at the.
So Turton, I know he's been living in Texas for decades.
Oh yes.
But he manages to keep that connection with the athletes.
Produce a lot of results for Belize in athletics.
Exactly. So he was instrumental in, and I never met him before. Somebody connected me to him. We spoke on the phone, and even when I was in Switzerland, we would have regular conversations. He would be advising me how to go about, how to best position the young lady to get the scholarship that we got. And, it turns out we got a full scholarship. So it shows us that it can be done if we take the right steps, we put in the amount of training, and we learn how to profile our athletes in the best possible way. We did some work with football as well. And this one I collaborated with Mr. Andy Hunt. He's a British citizen who moved to Belize 20 years ago. So Belize has become his home. He's raised his family. His kids are from here. And he sent out about four guys over 2022.
Oh,
so we
wow.
have the different levels. And this is separate from the group that the FFB sent out this year. And I must say, I'm happy that the FFB has decided to step into the whole scouting and recruitment arena, because they have such a wide pool, because football is played all across the country. I won't take any credit for it, because I didn't have any hand in that.
The sport in the country, the most popular sport.
Of course, definitely. It's played in every corner of the country, of the world, definitely. So and then also I do some work with basketball as well. But basketball has been in a bit of a rebuilding process over the last couple of years. There's new leadership at the helm now, Mr. Jacob Leslie. He's the brother of Darwin Poppy Leslie. He's a very popular player who is now the owner of Belize City Defenders as well. So he's now the new president of the Basketball Federation, and they've been really active. They've secured 30 scholarships. And they secured 30 scholarships for students in high school through a collaboration with the Ministry of Education. So I must shout out Minister Francis Fonseca for always keeping an open line for us when it comes to anything related to the development of our young student athletes. He never asks where the kid is from, which constituency he's in, who his family is. Just wants to see grades and performance. That's about it. So those are the four sports really: basketball, volleyball, track and field, and football, that I think we do have a good chance to really expand in. And that's the ones I've been working with over the last 4 years.
How do you also, too, as a follow-up on there, Ari, if you may, how do you also make sure that while during their college years, that their academics are geared towards something that when they return home to Belize, that it could be rewarding for them in terms of job placement and so forth, in terms of not necessarily coming back with a sport with expertise in that particular sport, but also that they are able to be potential hires for jobs that are there in the in the government, in the private sector, and so on.
Well, that's been some. In some cases, it's easier to manage when you're able to basically handhold an athlete throughout the course of their recruitment process. In some other cases, athletes are more. They have the athletes with the stronger family structures will be able to take a bit more divergent approach, or take their own approach basically. But what we do is we try to keep a support group together. Because I've lived abroad for several years, about 5 to 6 years now, and sometimes you feel very isolated, especially if you're in a part. So like two of the girls who were out last year, Fatima and Garrett Bruce, they were in Wyoming. That is a very cold and distant part of the US. So it's important that what we've done is we've tried to stay in contact with them, regular check-ins, almost like doctor visits. Like, you have to do it regularly.
Very important.
Keep their mind mentally plugged in.
It's a culture shock for them.
Yeah, because it's a real culture shock. The certain things in the American education system, people talk down about it, but there's certain things about it that's up to standard. Like the level of writing is something that is, I think, much more advanced than where we are in Belize when we come out of high school. So that's something that our kids have to
assist.
Technology use. Those are things that we have to continue to work and improve in our system to get our kids better prepared. So
quickly before we leave, I want you to mention about this constitutional committee, just for 2 seconds. Like, how did you get on that committee? And as a member of the youth, I will implore everybody on that committee to truly lobby the government for inclusion. You can't leave out half your citizens and then say we're all included. That's just my little thing. But tell us about how you got on that committee also.
How we got on the committee, YLab is a follow-up from a 2020 initiative that our group did was under the Youth Voices Matter campaign, where we organized about 8 radio shows on Love FM leading up to the general election. So we had young people, we brought them in a roundtable format, we brought in aspiring era representatives, and we really had that dialogue on the morning shows. And we also had a night show, which was like a wrap-up. So we've been doing work for the last 2 going on 3 years now in this regard. So when we brought everybody back together, it was sort of like a natural fit that said, we don't have any representation, but we need to formalize a structure that will allow a structure where our voices can be channeled through, because everybody was divergent, everybody was all over the country, in the US, outside, and there wasn't a direct way. So when we put it together, we sent our two most prominent young people. I use my brother specifically as he was in the media. Dominique is a well-known young person.
In the media too.
In the media as well. So they were able to articulate our positions quite well. I think we planned, prepared, we reviewed documents that they were going to use. So they were well structured and well positioned, I think, to make that case for us. We had a follow-up meeting. I was in the follow-up meeting. I called in from Geneva, and I was able to speak with Dr. Ross and the whole team from the Good Governance Unit, and we made our case. Because our thing was 70% of the country is not represented on this committee. That's a big bunch, and a constitution is something you change for the long term, medium and long term. It's not only a short term thing.
I was in that meeting when Dominique and them made their presentation. I made a presentation on the behalf of the Belizean diaspora, and I remember them. So you were coming in from, live coming in from Geneva from Zoom or something.
Yeah, I just came. I was listening in. I stay connected all the time.
Okay.
It's just like I'm here when I'm outside of the country, because all of this organization happened and I was overseas. But you have your people on the ground, companies registry, you're able to register your documents online now. So we did everything and worked through the whole process. So it's been a continued effort now. So now the focus now is to determine our approach to how we be involved at the committee stage. What are the principles that we want to champion? Inclusion is one, transparency is one, sustainability is one. Right? So we haven't been focusing directly on specific proposals at this point because
we
want
to suggest accountability.
And accountability, exactly. So these are the principles that will govern all our recommendations that we put forward. So we wanted to use this first month to really get a sense of where the group is and where we want to go, establish our communication channels in the group, and then starting next month, we're going to establish a wider channel outside of the group.
And do you have diaspora youths involved in this process?
Well, yes, definitely. We have young people. A lot of our youths are out studying at this point. Dominique is very active. My young lady, Alexandra Tillich, is very active. She's doing her PhD, her MPhil in political science. So she's at UA. She's been doing research on corruption and everything. And
she was in a group, I believe, that we were doing also. Very impressive. So we have to wrap it up, Bilal.
Yes, very much so, my brother. You're filled with information. And
I'm impressed.
Beresford in on a part two because we want to hear more from him. That's very exciting when you're dealing with the youth.
Yeah.
And so much dynamic things that the Belizean youth is doing across the board. We're so thankful
for you.
Give us
hope, man. You give us hope. The version of the youth we see every day on the news is the version of the youth that is in despair.
That's not the proper story for the Belizean youth at all. They're showing just the negative side. Yeah.
So I'm very impressed. Happy New Year's. Please continue. Please reach out to people in the diaspora and at home that you can learn from, because there's a lot of people, even Bilal can probably connect you to all the old legends, and they can tell you how you could.
That's an area you need to bank in on, as Aria is saying, Beresford. The Belizean legends in football like Maurice Jones, Ruki Gongara, they know the story. We need to have some kind of academy of veterans.
Yeah.
And sort of where the youth can draw from, and bring them into their coach and enrich that whole thing. It's very important.
Any last words you'd like to say before?
Well, I just wanted to say thank you for the opportunity to address your audience. It's great that you're willing to reach out to a young person like myself, share your platform, and just to look out for big things in 2023. I wasn't able to dive in exactly on the vision as it's still in the works, but some big announcements are coming soon from BK Sports. And of course, YLab will be dead in the center of this constitution reform process. So look out for us. We'll be here. You'll be seeing a lot more young people with me when you go out. And I'm bringing along everybody. I can't be the only one at the table. So we're bringing more seats and inviting ourselves to the party.
Amen. Thank you, Beresford. It was very good to talk to you. You're very inspirational. I hope more young people listen to you and reach out to you to become part of a movement, because change always comes from the youth. And so you have to kind of burn that fire. I encourage you to never dismiss anyone. Even the little kid in middle school can give you an idea that you never thought about. And with that said, Happy New Year, Belizeans. This is our last show for the year. I will now defer to my esteemed colleague, Bilal Morris, for his last words.
Yes, Ariane, this is our last show for the year, and I also want to give the greetings of blessed, prosperous New Year to all Belizeans at home and abroad. The best for our country, Belize. We look forward to a bright future for Belize. And as we end at this note with the youth, that the youth of Belize get their opportunity to shine in 2023. Happy New Year, blessed New Year to everybody. And again, this is Navel String Connections. I am Bilal Morris with my co-host Ariel Lightfoot, and thank you for watching.